Hey everybody. Okay, so here I'm using a piece of rope. A lot of people use zip ties, but I only had rope today, so I'm using a piece of rope. I just wrap it around my wrist to see like what's a good size. They say 3 inches is the standard, so you can measure 3 inches in diameter. And then I just put a little bit of glue onto the rope just to secure it a little better. And then I'm going to wrap it with some string to hold it in place. You can also use a piece of tape if you'd like to add an added security of strength with a piece of tape and glue. But I'm just going to wrap mine. And I'm just using this string that I have. It's a nice blue and white cotton string. And some of that will show through on the bracelet. So if you don't have any string that you like, you can just cover it up with the fabric when you're done. So as I go along, I just add little drops of glue. A lot of people don't even add the glue, they just wrap. But I'm just adding glue so it'll be extra secure. And not too much, just a dot here and there, and then you can spread it out a little. I feel like at least it will hold the string in place and make a nice bond. The glue I'm using in that little bottle is Glue All by Elmer's. I just put it in a small bottle so it's easier to manipulate. All right, so I have my fabric cut. Some people cut very small, thin strips. I just use any strips I have. So if they're thicker, shorter, longer, whatever. If they're too long, though, they're hard to keep wrapping through the bracelet, so it's a little better to have shorter pieces just for the ease of it. But the thickness to me doesn't matter because I make it all bunched up and I twist it around and stuff. I don't just use it where the color comes out. I twist them around and stuff. So to me, it doesn't matter the width. But I've used some very long pieces, and that can be hard when you're pulling it through the bracelet. So that's up to you. And then I just keep wrapping, try to pull it a little tight. You know, every couple inch, do an extra tug on it to get it a little tight. And then add a little dot of glue. And just keep going around, mixing fabrics. I'm using all different patterns, but if you want to use one pattern, you can. You could do the first layer in one pattern and then go over it sparsely with a different pattern. So any way you decide to do it is fine. Just keep wrapping and gluing and overlapping and adding layers. And that's how you wrap the bracelet. And then I go all the way till I get to the, the side where I'm meeting up with the beginning. Actually, I've done it with zip ties too. I think I might even like the rope better. It's a little bit thicker to work with because the zip ties are kind of thin and you have to put maybe 2 or 3 layers to get it a nice width, unless you want them thin. You can also have them very thin, like bangles. But, silver bangles are very thin, so you could do it that way too. I like them a little bit thicker. So I'm just continuing to the end. And then I'm going to add one more piece just to overlap on the string. Oh, I'm using some embroidery thread here. I'm just going to overlap from the fabric onto the blue string. So I just lay it down in the glue and then go over it by overlapping and going around and around. It adds a nice little touch of color, the green next to the blue, next to the fabric. And I'll just keep wrapping, adding a little dot of glue and spreading it and pulling it tight as you go. You don't have to pull it tight on each loop around, but every 3 or 4 loops, give a little tug to pull it in tight and to make the fabric, taut underneath. And then I'm just adding a little bit of glue there. to adhere the last drop of string of embroidery thread. And then I kind of bend it into a nice round shape. I'm cutting off any threads that might be hanging off. And then I just let it dry. And I'm going to be adding some wire, wrapping around to keep it all nice and in place. I'm going to be using I think 22 gauge wire. It's going to be the gold wire that's sitting there. I really like silver better, but I only had gold. So I'm going to use the gold wire and just wrap around a part of the bracelet. I'll use one piece to do one part, and then I'll do the other side. I won't use one long piece. It's too much to pull through. First, I'm going to let this, well, actually, I don't have to let it dry. I can start wrapping the wire even when it's a little damp. Yeah, I started here using it on the thread, but that got to be a little bit of a pain, so I'm going to end up cutting it. It was too much putting the spool through the bracelet. It's so much easier just doing it like this. So you keep wrapping. You could do it close together or farther apart or a little of both. I'm just doing it a little separated, and I'm going to leave a little end. And then I'm going to make like a little spiral. And I'll just put a little dot of glue to adhere it. Oh, I didn't put the spiral here. I do the spiral on the other piece. Yeah, so I just keep wrapping. And then I'm going to do like a little spiral here, like a little curly Q. And then I fold it over the bracelet. And I add a little dot of glue just to hold it in place. And then I'm going to let it dry. And that's basically it. You can also put beads on it, but I didn't do that.